Hello, Mr. Reinhard, and welcome to the City of London Cigar. Welcome
Thank
to
you,
London.
Alfonso.
How are you today?
Excellent. Always good to be back in London. Always great to come here to a place that is very close and very dear to my heart.
Oh, that's
I consider it a second home. So
oh, that's beautiful.
always good to be back.
So, as we know, you are from Meerapfel. Can you tell us a little bit what's your position with Meerapfel? What's your main occupation with them?
First of all, let me present you with the cigar.
Sure.
Most importantly,
Yeah.
our Meerapfel cigar, Meyer Robusto,
Oh, fantastic.
which I would love to share with you and enjoy with you whilst we talk about life and other things. As for Meerapfel Cigar, I have the privilege and honor of overseeing Meerapfel Cigar as vice president and taking care of this part of the Meerapfel family operations and the business. So I have the privilege of working with all of our global partners, all of our treasured retail partners, importers and distributors, and of course also the cigar-loving community, to share with them some of the rich history and the legacy that is behind Meerapfel Cigar and the inspiration for this uber luxury brand.
Fantastic, fantastic. So, let's light on this beauty and we're gonna then start to talk about it.
Absolutely. And of course, thanks for having me in these wonderful surroundings here. Magnificent lounge, beautifully done, and what better place to enjoy a cigar than old London, and then in such a beautiful environment, such a gorgeous lounge.
Totally agree with you. Totally agree with you. This is actually a new lounge just opened in London in, let's say, month time, and it's a really stunning place. So we are in the right place to enjoy a nice cigar.
So the Meyer Master Blend is named after Meyer Meerapfel, the great-great-grandfather of the present family generation, Jeremiah, Joshua, and Melissa Meerapfel.
All right.
And Meerapfel Cigar, being, as I said, a tribute to the family history and legacy, is comprised of what we call the Master Blends, and every one of them carries one of the family generation names. And these generational blends give you an idea of the family history and legacy and the unique accomplishments of the Meerapfel family and their various contributions to the tobacco and the cigar industry. Because the Meerapfel family has been... Thank you very much. The family has been in this industry for more than 400 years. Trading a sacred leaf transatlantically as early as the late 1600s and the early 1600s, pardon. And eventually the family settled in southern Germany, where Meyer Meerapfel, the great-great-grandfather, started the first Meerapfel cigar factory. So he created, with his vision and with his ingenuity, with his ideas and his passion and enthusiasm, he created that chapter of the family history and tradition. And that's the reason why on the ring, with this unique, intricate lasering pattern that you see here, this is what we call the genesis, or the rays of light. So it refers to the inception of that part of the family history, when Meyer Meerapfel not only incorporated the family business as it still stands today, but also started the cigar manufacturing tradition.
That's beautiful. So we're talking about really a long heritage in the tobacco industry.
Absolutely.
So when did you say that they started to actually grow tobacco?
So the family has been trading tobacco transatlantically from the early 1600s onwards.
Wow.
And eventually, the family started to grow tobacco themselves in Germany as well. So in the 1700s, members of the family made their way to Germany, settled in the southwestern part of Germany, close to Mickelsfeld in the Baden area. And that's where they also started growing their own tobacco. And Meyer Meerapfel he had the vision and the idea of creating his very own cigars with his very own tobacco, crafted by his own craftswomen and men, and that was the first Meerapfel cigar with the name on it, actually. And here we are, many moons later, enjoying yet another Meerapfel cigar, but this time truly created as a legacy brand in honor of that rich tradition and heritage.
Interesting. So what are we discovering in these cigars? Which kind of tobaccos we are discovering here?
All of the Meerapfel cigars are dressed in a vintage Cameroon wrapper, which has been aged in the Meerapfel vaults for more than 2 decades.
Wow.
So we're talking about an extremely well-aged wrapper tobacco. And Cameroon, being one of the most well-known and most well-respected accomplishments of the Meerapfel family, even though there are many throughout the decades and centuries, Richard Meerapfel, he saved Cameroon tobacco from extinction. And it's because of him that still to this day, some of the best manufacturers in the cigar industry can work with this unique wrapper leaf. And Cameroon is a very challenging tobacco to grow and to work with. It's grown under the most adverse conditions in the second densest rainforest.
Okay.
In the southeastern corner of Cameroon, bordering Central Africa. It's an extremely delicate and thin, fragile leaf. So a lot of people shy away from using it, also because it's by far the most expensive wrapper tobacco that you can find in the industry. But once you actually smell it and once you taste it, it's like all lights shoot up
everything
and,
disappears.
It's like fireworks on your palates because of its unique aromatic quality and the unique taste sensation that triggers all your senses. Besides, the wrapper, 20 years plus of age, as I said, but the other tobaccos are very well aged as well and have been matured for often decades as well. So which other cigar on the market can you think about that offers you 15, 18 years old filler and binder tobaccos in a 20-year plus wrapper?
Maybe 1 or 2, maybe.
But at the end of the day, it's about the holistic experience, and it's about enjoying the cigar for what it is, and that is a masterpiece in and by itself. When you listen to a Wagner opera or to a beautiful symphony, it's not always just about the individual notes, but it's about the beautiful experience of the whole symphony, where all the elements of the orchestra play together, well conducted by a true master of his art and craft. And it's the symphony that mesmerizes you and that touches your heart and takes you elsewhere. So not all of the instruments, not all of the tobaccos are disclosed. Because as I said, it's the symphony that matters. And the intention and the idea of the master blends was to give you an idea, a sense of what these generations, what these family members, those unique men have been like. So not only will the cigar give you a truly elegant, charming, very complex cigar experience, but it will also give you sort of a snapshot into the heart and soul of, in this case, Mayor Meerapfel. And that's one thing that fascinates me every time I enjoy one of these cigars, is that through the actual smoking experience, you can understand some of the intricacies and the unique characteristics of these generational family members.
Oh, makes a lot of sense, and actually this is something really interesting as well, because behind the aging tobacco experience, or behind smoking an aged cigar, there are a lot of thoughts, and some people love it, some people they're not really big fan of aging tobacco. So I'm personally a big fan of aged tobacco, and here you actually can feel the aging on the tobacco leaves on itself, and I'm sure that even the cigar has been aged before to then be released in the market. So, as you were saying before, as you were comparing before with the world of music, the art, it's literally the same here. Blending blending different types of tobacco which has different agings on it makes a lot of creates a lot of let's say challenge, because the flavor profile gets to another level, or the nicotine level, or all the other factor that actually implements the tobacco in the aging process. And so for me, let's starting from that point, having the old world of actually blending cigar, the blending word in general, it always interests me a lot, because I will always imagine crazy mad people behind trying to work out how everything can work together, or how to come out with something particular. And it's something which is always one of the most difficult part in the whole process of making cigar, not growing tobacco. And it's just something that fascinates me a lot. And here you actually can feel that. You can actually feel the complexity, you can actually feel that there is aged tobacco. The Cameroon wrapper is actually giving a lot of beautiful notes to the cigar. I'm really impressed so far. Now I'm just started, but really looking forward to...
You get that typical sweetness from Cameroon tobacco.
Yes.
Paired with that very gentle, very elegant baking spice note. It's not like a rough spiciness, like coarsely ground pepper, but we're talking about almost powdery, chalky qualities.
Creamy.
Especially on the palate and on the retrohale, the texture of the smoke is incredibly velvety and chalky, almost like baby powder, and these gorgeous spice notes. I tend to say baking spice, but you get these soft and warm cinnamon, clove, nutmeg nuances, and I'm not the one to tell anybody what they're supposed to smell or taste like. Everybody's palate is different, obviously, based on previous experiences and the sensory database that you have built for yourself. But I think there are certain characteristics to it which are uniformly applicable or identifiable in terms of the quality of the overall creation, whether that is the complexity, whether that's the length, that how the experience lingers on your palate, even though it leaves you with a very clean finish. So actually, when we get further into the cigar, after you finish, it's one of these cigars where you feel like, I might as well have another one, because it's just so smooth and clean on the finish, and leaves you with that gorgeous aftertaste. But yeah, I think complexity and elegance, finesse, is truly what makes these cigars stand out. It's never about the fortaleza. It's never about the strength or that immediate hit, because when you use tobacco of that age and delicacy and finesse, it's more about these gentle, soft tones, like the violin singing, and you have the warm brass underneath, and that beautiful orchestra playing together like a well-oiled machine.
Oh, 100% agree, and I actually love the way how you described before the velvety smoke, because I am personally similar to what you were saying before. Literally, when I talk about cigar, or when I make and suggest a cigar to a friend or to any aficionado, the thing that I always avoid going into detailing the flavor notes. You said something nice as well. People has different palates, and my simple example, it's super simple as this one. We coming from different parts of the world. Let's find something in common, and something like chocolate cake. My grandmother used to make my chocolate cake in a way. Your mother did it in a different way. It doesn't mean that has a different flavor. Well, it doesn't mean that it's not the same product, but has completely different flavor. The amount of maybe cocoa, whatever you put in the cake, and enhance or don't the actual flavor profile of the cocoa or vice versa, adding something else. It just completely gives you a different experience. And that's how we evolve your palate, with experience, with things that you tried, things that actually stay in your mind. So that's actually how you work out a flavor profile. By you mentioning too much regarding a flavor profile to some person, it might bring them aside, away from trying something. So what I always find and like to do is find words that describe the product without to mention anything about the flavor. Velvety smoke. Velvety smoke is something that I love, and I 100% can see and can find in here. And this is a super elegant smoke. Literally, this is a really lovely cigar, and really looking forward to see what's behind here. Literally. So
one interesting point, and I wanted to touch upon this a little bit, is when you talk about the aromatic qualities and the flavor profile and how it registers differently for different people, obviously, I think it also has something to do with the intention that was behind the creation of the cigar in the first place.
Okay.
And how I mean this is, certain people will probably identify a niche in the market or see that there is demand for something. So you might say, well, I really need Connecticut Shade cigar in my portfolio, or broadleaf, or San Andres, or Ecuadorian Sumatra right now is very popular and trendy. So this is what we want to create in order to propose something to the market that could eventually be successful from an economic perspective. Meerapfel cigar is very different in that sense. This is not a business case. Meerapfel cigar was a dream and a vision, and it was a heartwarming wish to capture some of the family history and present it to the world, offer it to the most discerning cigar enthusiasts, for them to learn and understand some of the tobacco and cigar history, and learn about the accomplishments of the family and what the Meerapfels have brought to the table for premium cigars. So the whole purpose and the whole philosophy of how these were put together was very different. And when you have such an incredible responsibility at your hand, because that's what a family legacy always is, it's a tremendous responsibility. You can never take that lightheartedly, so you have to do things the right way. And to me, that's something that always stood out with the Meerapfel family, is the values, the core principles and the ideas that the family's work and their contributions have been built upon and have always rested upon. It's those values and traditions that you don't see that often anymore in today's day and age. And so you not only want to do things properly, or maybe differently for economical reasons, you invest all your heart and soul, your blood and sweat and tears and your passion into creating something that will bring pleasure to other people. You take no shortcuts whatsoever. You pick the best raw materials that you can possibly find. And as with all the gifts from Mother Nature, you try to not mess them up.
Yeah.
Like a good Italian chef, you take the best ingredients that Mother Nature has to offer, the tomatoes from Mount Vesuvius, and with the lightest touch, a little bit of olive oil and a sprinkle of balsamic vinegar here and there, maybe you create something that's outstanding.
I agree.
Because it's all there. Mother Nature is the best chef, or offers us the very best ingredients, and our job is to treat them with utmost care and respect and build something that is extraordinary.
I do totally agree. It's all about respecting the natural sources that we have, and respecting then the work of people aside it to make actually the old things coming alive in a way. And it's actually really, really interesting, really beautiful. So going back to this lovely cigar, what's the the purpose of the name. Why the name? Why this name? Why the relation?
So, I mentioned previously that Meerapfel cigar, obviously that named after the family, is a tribute to the family history. So, all the master blends individually carry the name of one of the family generations.
Yep.
So far, we have introduced the Mayer master blend, named after the great-great-grandfather. We also introduced the Ernst master blend, named after the great-grandfather. Very different character, very different gentleman. And we also introduced Richard, the late father of Jeremiah, Joshua, and Melissa. Ernst, he was an adventurer. So Ernst Meerapfel left the safety of Untergrambach in Germany, where his father Meyer was creating cigars and growing tobacco. Ernst left and he sailed to Indonesia, which back then was quite an undertaking and quite an adventure in and by itself. And he discovered Sumatra tobacco, brought back Sumatra seed to Europe, and offered the world a different leaf, a different experience of tobacco. Richard, obviously, the gentleman who saved Cameroon tobacco, and who we have to thank for these wonderful and very precious wrapper leaves. And then we're still missing Heller, the grandfather, who is very, very close to the Cubans. One of the biggest exporters of Cuban tobacco in the history. And an extraordinary gentleman in by itself. I haven't had the privilege and pleasure of meeting Hella Meerapfel or Richard Meerapfel myself, but through all the stories and all the conversations that I have shared with the family, when they talk about their grandfather or their father, the eyes light up and you reflect on all these memories and what they all individually had to offer in terms of unique characteristics. And to try and encapsulate that and bring it into the cigar experience, I think is remarkable.
100%.
And inspires me, because every time I light up, it's like a time capsule. It's like the cigar and the experience of the smoke takes you back in time and takes you to another place and offers you an idea of a very different era, where the Mayer Master Blend, it's like you're sitting with a very old gentleman with lots of experience in life. He's calm. He's not young and energetic and all vibrant and talking crazily without stopping. It's a much different feeling of very laid back, calm, deep and dark voice. And it's almost mystical in the sense that you feel there's an incredible depth and substance to that person and a complexity in terms of the character. And that sort of shimmers through every word, much like the Mayer Master Blend gives you that sense of depth and complexity, but in a very calm way, very gentle, like sitting with an elderly gentleman who has pretty much seen everything in life and can lean back with the tranquility and a very calm demeanor.
Let him guide through this whole experience. No, 100%. I can get that. I can imagine that. So actually,
if you smoke an Ernst Master Blend cigar, for example, in comparison, you feel that it's more vibrant and more lively. It has more adventurous notes. You even get an oriental spice coming through, and almost like a salty minerality, almost like that briny sensation when you're standing on deck on a boat, and you have some of the salt water splashing in your face. So it's very much reflective of Ernst Meerapfel as a character and his adventures sailing to Indonesia.
Oh, I imagine that. So we just have now the last 5 minutes for this beautiful session. So how we can share how we actually can we find 5 words that we can share with our let's say retailer that support the brand, in order to make them a bit more confident to sell the brand, to sell the product. 5 simple words that, as we mentioned before, not touching base like flavors profile, but some five adjectives to actually describe the brand. Just something to give to. So we find out we have a beautiful heritage and legacy. So we can say that.
I think you have to start with words like tradition, values, intricacy.
I like that.
Elegance, complexity.
We have 5 then. We make the point.
It's tough to limit myself to 5 here, but I think it's really about that. It's about the values first. It's about honoring the tradition, because that's where the true value and the true luxury lies today. We live in a very fast-paced, ever online digital world these days. We barely have time for anything. And the cigar is the perfect vehicle to remind us of what's important and to sit back and reflect on things that were important once and things that our forefathers knew and understood very well, the values and the traditions that they carried themselves and what they passed on from father to son, from mother to daughter. And we want to preserve an idea of that for the generations of today, whilst also transcending or translating that into the future. Tradition is not only the worship of the ashes, but it's to carry the values into the future and making them relevant for generations to come. And I think that's not only the philosophy, but it's also the responsibility that we carry as the Meerapfel family and as Meerapfel Cigar, together with our partners, to share that with the world. Because this is not just a cigar. This is not just leaves of tobacco rolled into a slender vitola. This is a product that speaks about values and history and tradition and legacy and certain things we should never forget in life and we should never take for granted.
I 100% agree with you. And to be honest with you, that's something that I always share with people around. And it's a simple comparison that I do with the fine spirits world or the fine wine world. In a way that, like a wine, is not just simply grape juice fermented and then, let's say, cured product. Cigars are not just tobacco leaves, are not just dry tobacco leaves. There is so much going on, and as you can confirm it as well now, there are more than 300 to 500 hands working behind each single cigar. And now, for example, in this case, in the case of Meerapfel,
400 years of history.
400 years of history, and not less than 20 years to produce actually a single product. So that means that whenever you handle something like that, which is a piece of art, it's something that talks about history, talks about heritage, talks about life, family, you need to give respect. You need to respect the product and you need to give the right space. And touching base is something that you mentioned before, and that's something that I always say. A cigar takes time of your day. To smoke a cigar takes some of time away from your day, literally. And enjoying something like that, it literally brings you in in a parallel world. And I would love to, let's say, keep all that time away from my life just to enjoying something like that.
Very true.
And literally finding time to enjoy such a fine product, enjoying a momentum for yourself either, and then to discover what's in front of you, what you're trying at the moment. It just makes a lot. It makes the whole experience, and that's why we are in this beautiful world. The tobacco,
so.
Yeah, the tobacco industry is such a fantastic place. Anyway, Mr. Leland, thank you very much.
Thank you. What a pleasure.
Oh, my pleasure, my
Thank
pleasure.
you for having me.
Anyway, we're gonna finish to enjoy this cigar, and we're gonna chat a little bit more as well. Anyway, thank you very much.